Hey, my name's Brittany. Thank you guys for joining my channel. I would love to give you a little background about myself since this is my first video on this channel. Very much love baking. However, I would say I'm very much an amateur baker. I don't know a lot about the chemistry behind baking or maybe like the why things happen. So I am really hoping to learn a lot throughout this time or throughout the course of this channel. So I hope to take you through my baking journey with me and would love for your guidance along the way as well. So I hope this is a fun experience for both you and I. Today we're going to be making baklava, and the crust on baklava, or like that pastry, that flaky pastry, is really finicky to make. I think maybe once I'm more experienced, I'm totally going to try that. But for now, I found a recipe, and I'll link it below, but I'm using this recipe that comes with pre-made dough, or that requires pre-made dough. And I'll be using that today, and I will walk you through my steps that I do, any struggles that I hit, and how do I overcome them, or things that are awesome about it. And then at the very end, I'm going to review the recipe with you and just kind of let you know, as an amateur baker, can you do it? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that see recipes and are like, that looks so good and I want to make it, but then attempts and you're like, well, dang, that didn't work. So my goal today is to let you know whether or not this recipe is a go or a no. So let's try. Okay, so I have put about a half or 3/4 cup of sugar in here with 1 cup of water. I currently have it on medium heat, and I am stirring it until it dissolves. Once it dissolves, I have set out my honey. It's 1 cup of honey, and if you're curious, I'm using the Texas Wildflower all natural honey. This whole jar was essentially 1 cup, so that worked out pretty well. And then I have set aside 5 whole cloves. So essentially what I'm going to do, once this dissolves, I'm going to put in the honey and the cloves, let it go to a simmer, and then let it bring it to a boil, and then I'll let it simmer for about 25 minutes. Meantime, this is my dough. If you guys are following the dough starter, there will be a video coming soon, and this is it. But I preheated the oven to 350 degrees, so that's going. I think is to make the nut mixture, and I do want you guys to know, next step is to make the nut mixture. I do want you guys to know that this was all whole nuts. Let me see if I can get it better lighting. So this was whole nuts, walnuts, pistachio, and hazelnuts. I have cut them up, and this should be around 24 ounces of nuts. Okay, there was a little situation that occurred. I was heating up the sugar in the water, and then once the sugar dissolved in the water, you're supposed to add the honey and the cloves, which I did, and you're supposed to boil it. So I left it on like medium high and wasn't really paying attention to it, and was kind of just doing my own thing, waiting for it to boil. Well, wrong. Don't do that. Doesn't work. I was not paying attention, and it boiled over so bad. It went all over my stove, and I don't know if y'all could. And then also, look at the stove top. I have sat here and scrubbed this for like 30 minutes. I have been able to take off a decent amount, like it was all over. So for it to be just centralized in this one location is pretty good, I think. But I'm definitely have to go to the store tomorrow and get some like Easy Off or something, or let you guys know a better way to get it off, but to clean that off. So that's something I have to do. Fun. It is the next morning after I made the baklava. I ended up finishing up the baklava last night. I took the syrup that we made that I spilled, but whatever was left of it, I took that and poured it over top the big baklava the second that it came out of the oven. I was just unfortunately so tired last night that I went straight to bed. But I'll show you the baklava and then we can make a cup of coffee and have a piece for breakfast. So good. Okay, hey guys, so we just finished making my coffee, which is delicious. So glad I did it. And I'm gonna take the first bite of the baklava. Okay. Yeah, it's solid, like really good. I think that the flakes are really crisp, like they're nice and flaky. The filling on the inside, the kind of like the nut filling, really good. That was really good. So I think like overall, I rate this recipe out of 1 out of 10, 10 being like absolute, so easy, delicious, turns out great, 1 being like, oh my god, so awful, never do it. I rate this recipe out like an 8. The baklava is good, it tastes like baklava, although it is a little sweet for me, and I don't know if that's because of the quantity of syrup that we poured over it whenever it was done baking. I'm not sure, but it is a little sweet. I had to take multiple sips of coffee while I was drinking it, and I'll just take one now. Anyways, I take multiple sips of coffee while I was eating it. But I think overall it's really good, and the recipe was very self-explanatory. Again, like I told you guys about last night, I would recommend it when you are making the two things actually. First, when you're making the syrup to pour on top of the baklava whenever it's done baking, just keep a close eye on it. I wouldn't walk away from it. It boils relatively fast. Even when it's on a simmer, check it relatively frequently just to make sure that it's not expanding or exploding or whatever, because it caused a huge mess on my stove top, so that's totally something you should pay attention to. Second, I did not have a brush, like a little like a basting brush or like a pastry butter brush, so I had to use a like a spatula, like a soft-sided spatula, and like rub on the butter onto the pastry flakes or like the pastry layers. It worked. I don't know if it would work as well. It definitely does not work as well as a brush. So if you are making this recipe, just make sure that you have one. I didn't realize, I guess I passed that part, but I didn't realize at the moment or whenever I was looking at the recipe that it needed that brush, unless I would have bought it. But so if you don't have a brush, don't fret. It works just fine with the little like small spatula guy that I use, but if you do have a brush, that probably would help a ton with the flakes. Other than that, great recipe, tastes good. It's linked below if you want to try it. Highly recommend. And if you do try it, let me know your thoughts. I want to know. And if I did something wrong or you're like, oh my god, this is why that happened, tell me. I want to know, I want to learn, and this should be a fun experience. Thanks. See you all next time.